Clerk, please call roll.
Ann Miller.
Present.
Bill Deckard Senior.
Present.
Bill Deckard Junior.
Present.
Jim Wisco.
Present.
Susie Lips.
Present.
Ben Mahan.
Present.
Josh Farron.
Present.
Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to invite Kenny Roll to come forward, lead us in prayer this evening. So if you would please stand and then remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's pray. Dear God, we thank you for our great city. We thank you for its great leaders. We do ask that you just be with the business at hand tonight. Lord, give them wisdom, direction, and guide them through it all. We ask all these things in your name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Prior to tonight's meeting, we received copies of the minutes from the meeting of February 28th. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? If not, I would entertain a motion regarding the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
And the motion made to approve, is there a second?
Second.
And the motion made and seconded to approve the minutes from the February 28th meeting as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed no, the motion carries. Again, for some of you that are here this evening for the second reading of the vacating the public ways of the alley and Mulberry Street by the county, that has been pulled from tonight's agenda, so we will not be addressing that. I want to also remind the council to lean into your mic tonight so we can be heard as we are live streaming tonight's meeting. Tonight we are honored to have with us the varsity girls basketball team from the Tabernacle Christian School, who for the fourth consecutive year won the state championship of the Indiana Association of Christian Schools. And I would like to read the following proclamation for them. Whereas the city of Martinsville, Indiana wishes to recognize and pay tribute to the varsity girls basketball team of the Tabernacle Christian School. And whereas the 2021-2022 basketball team has dedicated themselves to succeeding through their faith and in the sport of basketball. And whereas the city of Martinsville is duly proud of the varsity girls basketball team for their hard work and dedication and their, make sure I get this right, back to back to back to back. It's a 4-P. Better than the Chicago Bulls. State championships for the 2018, 2019, 2019, 2020, the 2020, the 2021, and now the 2021 and 2022 seasons of the Indiana Association of Christian Schools. And whereas the varsity girls basketball team finished the season with a record of 19 wins and 2 losses, and an overall record for the past 4 years of 80 wins and only 13 losses. And whereas Annie Seasting, Emma Roll, and Sammy Jones were selected to the Indiana Association of Christian Schools All-Tournament First Team, whereas Coach Brandon Seasting was named Coach of the Year for the Indiana Association of Christian Schools. Now, therefore, I, Kenneth Costin, Mayor of the City of Martinsville, Indiana, do hereby proclaim the week of March 14th to the 20th, 2022 as Tabernacle Christian School Eagles Girls Basketball Team Week here in Martinsville, Indiana, and further urge all citizens to consider and recognize the achievements of these dedicated student athletes who are the future leaders of our community. And when this my hand, I have set my seal this 14th day of March 2022. Now, if the team would come forward along with Coach. coach says it was all his great command that did it. So I just want to make sure. Mr. Porter's going to help me present a couple of certificates. Congratulations. This be for Annie. Annie? Congratulations. This is for Emma. Emma? Congratulations. This is for Sam. Sam? Congratulations. So, I hear with great coaching, we have to return. This is what we help him in the city. Thank you. What's that about? Max, need a couple more. Not much for all the hard work that you put forward, but a little show of appreciation for the city and the ambassadorship that you've done for us in the last 4 seasons. Yep. Well, you can't have two. It's like a sis, you know. And again, thank you for your accomplishment. You're more than welcome to stay for our exciting meeting, and if you've got the school order to do, we understand.
Mr. Mayor, do we know if, what sort of classes, what year these girls are? We gonna have a back-to-back dynasty, Coach Baxter? You know?
The likelihood is high.
All right.
That's fantastic. You know, sometimes you watch the news and you get discouraged and you worry about what the future of our country is going to be like. But then you have a group of young people like this that gives us hope. We're very fortunate. Chief Richards?
Good evening. Before you have the stats for the Martinsville Police Department for February of 2022. For arrests, 26, warrants, 16, agency assists, 11, accidents, 37, traffic stops, 13, lockouts, 39, canine details, 6, domestic or citizen disputes, 46, theft, burglary, 42, other incidents, 305, total January, I believe she's supposed to be including February incidents of 533. You can also see in the second column how the numbers for 2022 compare with the numbers for 2021. On the graph, you will have the graph as usual. Does anybody have any questions?
Just real quickly, why do you think the thefts and burglaries are up, 50%?
Well, I'm sure that most of the council is aware several of the local storage units have been hit a number of times. We've had some extra patrol in those areas. We've also had meetings with some of those business owners, but that's one of the explanations why those thefts are up from where they were last year. So,
I wasn't aware that it was just, okay.
yeah.
Basically, the warnings are up, so it's contacts help bring down those accidents and other things. That's
Yeah.
why.
Yeah, that's good.
Increase there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Chief Richards?
What other events would fall under the other category?
It could be any number of, it could be citizen disputes,
you, Chief. Chief Green?
Good evening, council. Tonight, I'll admit I made a mistake in a printout, but I corrected it at the bottom. So you have two sheets, one's colored for the year-to-date, right now for this past month, actually, and the black and white one is for last year at the same period of time. We were at 223 runs for the month, January, from February to March, and we're up this past time 229, so only up a few runs. However, year-to-date, we're up 109 runs, still year-to-date, so we've been continuously tracking 100-plus runs more than the year before. Fires are roughly about the same from last year to this year, and I think we're one less. So everything's been running about the same. More medical runs is really what we're going on, and we're going on that side of town that we keep talking about. Seems to be the big one. We did have, and I want to shout out to Morgan County EMS while I have you here. Summer Brown and her crew were able to help a resident that was really struggling, where we were making 5 or 6, maybe 7 calls a day to this resident, and it was the best bedside manners I've ever seen out of a crew. It was not only that, but it was the compassion and the willingness to go the step further than what we tried doing previously, and got to the point where we were able to get that gentleman into and get some help. And so now he's where he needs to be at the correct facility, but it was because Morgan County EMS came in, they just did a fantastic job. I will tell Keenan this as well when I get the chance to talk to him, but I think overall they did a fantastic job for a citizen of Martinsville, and it needs to be recognized. So overall, runs are up, things are happening, pretty much continuing on. So any questions from you guys?
Chief, the colored one is the current year, is that correct?
Yes, up at the very top, it'll tell you it's 1/1/22 to 3/14/22.
In that comparison, some of the numbers are missing. Is that because those particular calls weren't involved this year compared to last year?
Yeah, whenever you're seeing, yes. So basically, let me get to
Like,
that.
for example, the 100, 111 is from last year, but there's none for this year.
Right. So yeah, it's what it pulls up. You get the exact same report every time, as far as what I'm looking for. So I pull up that information. If it falls within the parameters, it'll print it out for that month.
Thank
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Becky, you have some information for us?
I do. Last month, we reported that the 2021 annual financial report has been filed with the DLGF. That has been filed, and it was on time. It was due March 1st. We submitted ours February 22nd. And a couple of other stats I would like to give you regarding 2021. A recap of what goes on in the Clerk-Treasurer's office. In 2021, we processed 4,597 claims. We processed over $50 million in revenue. We dispersed over $45 million in claims. And we managed over $60 million in assets. Anybody have any questions? Thank you.
Under unfinished business, we talked a little bit about last meeting about an appointee from the council to the fire merit board. Has there been any discussion in regards to that?
You know, we have one gentleman that did not get back to us today. We're supposed to have answers today, but anyone else as well, get that as soon as I'm gonna give them a call after the meeting as well.
Okay.
Anyone else has?
If any other council person has a name, go ahead and give that to you then.
What's that?
If any of the council,
Yes, yeah, if anyone else has a name, please put them in.
and we'll just go ahead and table this for next meeting then. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Under new business, Chief Green, I was told I need to call this a request for the Clerk-Treasurer to prepare additional appropriation to be presented at the next meeting. But if you want to talk about what this is from,
Okay. All right, in your packet, you should have a copy of a check given to us. It's also for the sale of our 89 Pierce that's been on surplus for quite some time now. We've tried multiple different, it was claimed as surplus a long time ago through this council, but we've tried multiple different avenues to try to get rid of that truck. We've had people call from out far, way out west, that they wanted us basically to give it to them. We've tried in many different ways, but at the end of the day, we took the $2,500 and it went back to the general account. At this point, whenever we were looking at fire trucks and purchasing equipment, we were wanting to try to get back that money. In order to purchase right now, we need to purchase a gas meter. Gas meter right now is going to be $2,200. A year ago, we were at $1,800 for the same gas meter. So I'm really getting nervous about the cost of rescue equipment and things that need to go on fire trucks. And so I want to go ahead and get this purchased and use those funds to use that, and then anything else that we can, whatever's left, $300, to go ahead and put towards something else. So we're trying to gather the things we need for the new trucks when they come. But as you know, we're still a little ways from that happening, but we need to start looking at purchasing now while we can. It's not going to get cheaper. So those are some things we're going to do.
any questions for Chief Green or for Clerk-Treasurer Becky?
That same piece of equipment went from
1,800,
to 2,200 in a span of how long?
a year.
A year?
We had to replace one, and we were right at $1,800 for it. We could find something that's cheaper. The problem is they have to be calibrated, so you have to buy the calibrating gas and the equipment for it. So we stay with the same equipment. It only makes sense. Plus, we know it works, and it's the same thing that the gas company has as well. So it's not a matter of buying something cheaper. They pretty much have it. Anything that says fire or police on it, EMS is really expensive. But everything is expensive. So we want to go ahead and move on this as soon as we can.
So Becky, if you're going to be preparing additional appropriation, there's really no action to be taken on this at this time that you need, or do you need approval from the council for you to do that?
Let me ask you a question. Kevin, when you ordered this piece of equipment, is it out 30 days or so?
Yeah, it'll be out 30 days.
We can have the additional appropriations out prior to that if he goes ahead and orders it.
Yeah, it goes through Fire Service Inc. That's who we'll purchase through. That's the best price we got. Online, it was $2,400.
I would agree to him going ahead and ordering it, and then we process the additional appropriation at the next meeting.
Is the council okay with that? Okay, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Mr. Coffey, do you want to explain Resolution 2022-3?
Yes, council, you recall last year, we made a decision based on our attorney's recommendation to opt out of the state settlement, the national opioid settlement. This past legislative session in Indiana, there was amendments made to the statute for which caused us to opt out, and those changes have now been made by Indiana law, signed by the governor. And so the recommendation we now have is to opt back in to the class action for the opioid settlement on a national basis. In your packet, you've got several things tonight. You've got a proposed resolution that I'm asking you to consider and vote on. Along with that, you have an amendment to the attorney fee agreement. Originally, there was a 15% agreement that we had agreed to pay our attorneys as a contingency fee basis, 15% of whatever the settlement proceeds would bring from for our participation, City Martin participation. This agreement is a reduction, and the attorneys have agreed to reduce their fees from 15% down to 8.7%. This was a little bit of give and take pursuant to Indiana's statute. The amendment that was made to it was to reduce the attorney fees in that. So this particular letter is an amendment to that in which we would agree to pay the attorneys 8.7% as opposed to the 15%, which was part of the original agreement entered into back in 2018-19, I believe. And you can see on page 3 of that amended agreement from the McCresson, Cardinal Health, and OmniSource Bergen Corporation Fund, City of Martinsville will be getting $163,283.67. So that the 8.7% is outlined there as far as what that will be for the attorney fees. And then from the separate Johnson & Johnson settlement, City of Martinsville will be getting $38,289.87. And you can see also what the attorney fee breakdown for that will be. So that would be part of what we're asking tonight to take action on. In a nutshell, we have the statute that's part of your packet as well. And the synopsis, I think, does a good job on page 2 of your packet of what the amendments to the bill and that now the law is. But it removed language that provided that no political subdivision has any claim to any settlement proceeds for litigation against any opioid party not yet filed by the state. So the statute had a certain drop dead date that if the state did not file suit and you opted out as a political subdivision, you had no proceeds and any settlement they would have in the future. That's now been removed from the law. Also, if you recall, the law that was passed last year, gave absolutely no guaranteed monies to cities, counties, or towns. It was up to the state to decide if they wanted to give us anything. The change now provides that at least 35% of the settlement proceeds are to be distributed to the cities, counties, and towns for programs for treatment, prevention, and care, and that are the best practice for opioid use disorder. So the monies we're getting, there are some strings attached to it. We have to use it for treatment, prevention, and care. But we are guaranteed some monies now, which before we weren't. That's one of the biggest reasons why the attorneys had asked us to opt out last year. So again, the recommendation that we have is that we opt back in at this time. We need to do so by mid-April. And then they believe they will receive these first funds the end of April this year. So we actually should be seeing some monies come through fairly quickly here if we decide we're going to opt back in.
I have a question. We were recommended to opt back in because of treatment, prevention, and care. Why were we recommended to opt out when we did?
We were recommended to opt out because one of the language in the law last year did not give us any guarantees we were going to get any monies. They left that up to the state, and basically the Department of Health was going to decide what the funds would be used for throughout the entire state. So there was no guarantee they had to give cities, the towns, and the counties any of that money. So one of the biggest changes is that now there's language in the statute that says that the state must give 35% of the funds to the cities, counties, and towns.
Okay. Thank you.
Council, was this the same, maybe it's a different lawsuit I'm thinking of, was that the one also why we backed out because we were like lower on the totem pole and we weren't going to get very much, or was that a different suit?
It must have been a different suit. I mean, basically we were, well, there wasn't any total to be on, just to be honest with you, is that under the latest laws.
Thank you.
How's the money distributed once we get it? Does it have a separate account?
Yeah, it'll have to come in as a separate, we'll have to tag a separate account, and then we'll need to obviously decide on what we're going to do in regards to the restraints that we have as far as how we can use them.
Mr. Coffey, do we have any idea about approximately how much money this will be?
Yeah, it's in your letter there, the amendment to agreement for the professional services. It's in your packet. Page 3 of that letter talks about there's 2 different settlements that are getting ready to come in. First one being the largest one, the McCresson Cardinal Health and OmniSource lawsuit class action. Our cut is $163,283.67. And then from Johnson & Johnson, our cut is $38,289.87.
Okay, thank you, I didn't see that, thank you.
Minus attorney fees, correct?
The attorney fees come out of that, yeah. So, yeah, we're right, we have to take out the 8.7%, and that, they've got a table there of what that amounts to.
For what it's worth, I spent some time also dealing with this for the county. The commissioners approved a very similar action last meeting, and I think Dale stated pretty succinctly and accurately the changes in the changes to the statute this year, which basically accomplished the primary goals of the whole opt-out in the first place, which was to local governments basically together create leverage to get a better deal both from the state. So.
And do we know how we're going to put it at, or designate this to, or is that something we'll come up with later?
I would recommend we deposit it in the general fund with its own special name and revenue number and appropriation number.
I just think as long as we have it separated out into a fund where we know that it's can only be used for whatever we decide in the future under the restraints we're going to be under.
Is there a timeline on when that's supposed to be spent?
There's not, well, not that I know of at this point. I guess I don't really know the answer to that. I have to take a look further at what it is we're going to get with our attorneys, but right now I do not know the answer to that, if there's a timeline or not.
Any other questions? I would entertain a motion regarding resolution 2022-3.
I make a motion that we accept resolution 2022-003.
The motion made to accept, basically, which means opt back in. Is there a second? The motion made and seconded to opt back in the resolution. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Mr. Coffey, you want to talk about the property transfer?
The city was approached recently by the county. They had 4 different parcels of real estate that they attempted to sell at a tax sale, and there was no takers. So the county now, it falls to the commissioners, the county owns it, they're going to get to do a commissioner's sale, but before they do that, they had asked if the city had any interest in accepting ownership of these 4 parcels. These 4 are within our city limits, and so that was their thought on this. In your packet, you'll see the letter that the county sent us. You'll also see that we've got drawn out the location of where these parcels are. The first is a sketch which hand draws the dimensions of these 4 different parcels. The second page of your packet there is the 3 parcels that is south of town, close to Legendary Hills. The next page is an overview map from the GIS that kind of shows you a little bit more about where the location is. These parcels are landlocked, so there is no road access, no way to get to them. We do have currently utilities that run through these particular parcels. However, we already do have easements for our utilities to run through there. So we're fine as far as our easements go. But this, again, the county was asking if we had any interest in owning them. Again, with no access to them, I just leave it at that, I guess, for the three that are south of town. The fourth one is actually in the, on Southview Drive. And it also adjoins our current property that we do have. So there is some, I think, benefit to the one on Southview Drive accepting that particular parcel. It certainly is not landlocked, and it is, again, adjacent to other lots that we have in that area. So I think there is an advantage to maybe accepting ownership of that one. The other three, it's certainly up to the council whether you want to own that or not, but that's been the request that the county would do. Now, if we decide to do this, it's a process. We have to let the county know we're going to accept them. They then will assign the certificate to us, the commissioner's certificate to us, and then we have to apply to the court for a deed. So it's a process that we'll need to do, but in any regards, it's the opportunity to own more land.
Why are they giving it up?
They can't get rid of them. They tried selling at a tax sale, they wouldn't sell. They're gonna try it again at a commissioner's sale, but they thought they'd give them to us first if we had any interest. If not, they'll try to sell them at a commissioner's tax sale. Find out if they can unload them or not.
But what are we looking at in terms of mowing this areas?
I'm already there, so.
Yeah, what are we looking at?
Well, the three are, there's no access to them. So we will not mow that.
Okay.
The one there on Southview, yes, we would mow. We've got to mow everything around it. So
Okay.
It's not a burden.
Not a burden, okay. And they're giving this to us, is that right? We're not paying them, correct?
Yes, they would give it to us.
My map does not have a drawing on Southview Drive. Which parcel are we referring to? I see the name is there, but physically, where is the parcel located?
Off of Crestwood Drive, I believe.
Back where the,
Closer to where the I'm sorry.
Phil's along the creek there,
yes,
and the double is on the other side of the
in the southwest end.
Yes, sir.
Is there any advantage of us on the other three of us taking them? Accepting them?
It's good mushroom country. City workers used to tell me that.
Did they share any with you, though?
I don't recall.
I mean, we've got a water line that runs down through there, and on part of the rural.
I'm not sure if it goes through that, I think so.
We have a water line goes through there, we've already got the easement.
Right.
So we don't have to own the land to take care of it, but it's your call.
I ask a silly question, Mr. Coffey. If we don't take those three parcels and the commissioners sell them to the adjoining property owner, then it would generate some type of tax that we would get, correct? Some type of very minimal property tax, but something, as opposed to us owning them.
Well, yeah, I mean, we would absolutely, whatever the minimum amount would be to a private owner would, yes, they'd be paying tax on that.
Comments from the council? What do you all think?
I definitely think the parcel, obviously, they're on Crestwood makes sense. To get, to take that one.
They're probably not a package deal, is that, maybe?
I don't believe so.
No, that wasn't my understanding. I think we offered any of them to us. I don't think it's a package deal.
If you want to take the one and refuse the other three, I don't think there's a problem. They were just reaching out to us to ask for one.
Will there be any advantages of us having, any equipment or anything out there for the lines or anything, or? I can't visualize how close it is to.
They're not that big of a lot.
We can get to it with the easement, that's not.
So there's a possibility of some revenue if those lots are bought by adjoining property owners, correct? Minimal, but some, right?
The way things are anywhere, 50 cents.
Not much of a tax sale.
Well, if there's no upkeep, nothing for us to do with it, right?
Get some sheep up there. Any other comments from the council? This side's been kind of quiet.
I can see the benefit of the south view. What's the council?
That's
I'm just that it concerns the county, I'm gonna abstain, but as a general matter, maybe not specific to this, just the county invariably through property taxes and tax sales ends up with a list of counties, or a list of properties rather, that for one reason or another, and the history of how they got carved up that way is even, this is a nerdy lawyer part of me, but even kind of interesting. But some of those are on those sales repeatedly because they're either small enough or landlocked or any number of reasons. Just can't get rid of them. I don't really know if that's necessarily the case with these. I just know the statute provided the opportunity to offer them.
Those sections that are marked no public access, do we know who the owners of that property is?
We own the land that's around it, around these properties.
The one on South View and Crestwood, we do. We own all the property around that one. The one out on 30 or on 69, I remember looking to elevate, but I can't recall who the property owners.
I'm looking at my phone, and first of all, I don't know, two of them are very small. It looks like there's private owners on one or two sides of the state of Indiana on another side.
Want me to show that? Tell them.
It makes sense to own the property that we own the property around
This area right here.
on Southview.
Not, yeah.
So it's not, Mr. Coffey or Mr. Wesco, do you know if those three properties there around 37, is that like a floodplain?
I don't know.
It's in an overflow area from the creek. Goes through there.
I'll make the motion to accept the parcel Crestwood Drive, but not the other three.
I'll second that.
There's a motion made and seconded to accept from the county the parcel of ground on Crestwood, but to deny the three out along 69. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Abstain, one abstention. Okay. Thank you.
That's your comment, Mr. Mayor. The three parcels that are down there that we did not accept just now, the Crones were involved in ownership of that, so I can tell you there's nothing logging possibilities down there.
So it's been stripped out. Okay, Gary, we have a second reading, consideration of ordinance 2022-36, Amended and restated ordinance establishing the Hannah Farms PUD.
Thank you. I'm Melissa Gerard from Four Star. I have little handouts here. I think Gary presented.
Thank you.
So we had, there was small oversight when we did the original PUD ordinance. The street right-of-way was a little bit large. More typically, 50-foot right-of-way is the standard. So we've gone back and revised the PUD and I've highlighted for you, the only change is section 12. And the attachment to this document. This is only a partial of the amended ordinance. We've run this by Mr. Swan. He's in agreement with it. Planning Commission sent it up with a favorable recommendation and has actually approved the primary plat reflecting this right away already anyway. We filed our secondary plat and we're going to be heard on our secondary plat before the Planning Commission this month. So I'm hoping that you all can just help me clean up this little thing with the right-of-way width to make the record clear. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Council, also, as I reported to you last meeting, the Planning Commission at their February meeting did recommend to the City Council that this amended ordinance be passed. So they went through the particular request and noted that there had basically been an error in the original and thought it was a good idea to amend it down to the 50 feet right away.
Any questions from the council? I would entertain a motion regarding the ordinance.
Make a motion to approve.
And a motion made to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
And a motion made and seconded to approve the ordinance. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Where are the claims?
They're right here, they're making their way.
Josh, are you hoarding the claims? Ben?
I make a motion that Josh takes care of paying the claims this month. You were given a copy of the claims prior to tonight's meeting. Are there any questions or comments regarding the claims? And though I know they're making their way around slowly, I will entertain a motion regarding the claims.
I'll make the motion to approve the claims.
Been a motion made to approve the claims as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
The motion made and seconded to approve the claims. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Any comments from the council this evening?
I just had a couple quick questions. In regards to Hannah Farms, we know for a fact that there's not going to be any problems with drainage or flooding in that area. Do we know?
That's under a pretty significant study right now between county, NDOT, and ourselves involved in that.
Okay.
March 23rd meeting is scheduled what that resolution is. The county has proposed one that's not terribly expensive. NDOT has rejected that. They're on review and how they might handle that. But I don't see that we won't reach a pretty sensible resolution there. And it would be something that could be done within a matter of weeks. So I would think by April, we're probably beyond that that issue and worry about that.
And one of the things in the Ready grant that we identified was the drainage in that area because of all the development we have coming up in there. So there should be some funds from the Ready grant to help with that also.
And typically, when you have developed conditions, the drainage will improve, because right now it's all just sheet flowing off of that bare farm ground, and there's nothing to detain it or hold it. So when we put in, we'll basically, and I like to describe it as, we put a moat around the whole site, we call swales, all the way around, where the water will go down and be caught in pipes and catch basins. And then we will hold it on site in our pond system. It'll go from pond to pond to pond, and the release rate, that we will release it into the outlet drainage area is typically, I'm gonna be presenting a project in Franklin tomorrow night, and the release rate is 1/4 of the release rate that they're getting right now off of the sheet flow. And that's pretty standard. It can be quite the amount of water that at one period of time will come off of the raw farm ground. So we should help. We almost always do with the drainage situation.
We have a pretty involved stormwater ordinance that calculates how much can be released at what rate, so that's what these big detention ponds are for.
We have to really constrict it down with pipes in terms of how much we can allow to come off the property.
Any chance of a fishing pond being put in? Councilman Josh and I enjoy fishing.
I think the pond is a little bit of a sensitive area with the Plan Commission. We wouldn't do fishing there for safety reasons. We do have safety ledges around it, but the Plan Commission, I was having to explain to them why we wouldn't want fencing around a residential pond. So I don't think they want anybody fishing there.
But they are 10 feet deep, these are deep
Yeah.
ones.
Yeah.
It's going to be quite an addition.
And you had something else?
The other question I have is the property that we bought down off of 69, it was a signage build, a company was running it that was a signage company or something?
Oh, road safe, I'm sorry, yes.
What's going on with that right now?
Nothing.
We probably should have an executive session in regard to, I think it would be an executive session with Adele, in regards to city properties and so forth. And talk about that property.
Okay.
So I can't give you an exact answer right now.
Okay. All right, thank you. Just wondering, thank you.
Any other questions?
Mayor, speaking on, excuse me, go ahead.
I have a question for Mr. Porter. The certification service, you made any headway with that?
I have not. I've asked questions and nobody's given me an answer, and so we're still working on it. I apologize that I don't have that. We are working with, I know that the utility office is working through one of their services to try and figure out if we can make it work, but the system that you referenced to me, nobody seems to know anything about.
Speaking on behalf of the merchants in the northeast 1/2 block of Morgan Street, back from Sycamore, thank you for your action and the Board of Works on agreeing to erect the four-way stop and allowing a loading zone. It is not just for the auction company, but there are other businesses that have opened there that will also take advantage of that, and they still would like urgent attention being given to giving them back their parking spaces that have been yellowed by the city.
I know, well, they weren't, or yeah, they were yellowed out. Those two spaces were. I know Gary had talked with the state today in regards to when they're going to pave Morgan and Maine. And they're, what they say, Gary, they're still wanting to wait till
That's
23rd.
hopeful. They have a contract let date of 7/12, this is July. They're not certain that they'll get. She told me this morning that they had 5 lettings last week and 4 of them went so far over budget they have to redesign. So some of these are coming due. E&B's going to be in
Gary and I spoke today, where we think that if that's the case, we want to go ahead. You hate to spend money sometimes, but it'd be worth restriping from Mulberry all the way to Sycamore and putting everything like what we're gonna want it to be back, even though it's not gonna be smooth, but at least get some lines out there. So we're waiting to hear from them.
They would also be in agreement to keeping the parking spots adjacent to the four-way as yellow. They agree that would give the motorist a better vantage point and stuff. Thank you.
I have 369 questions.
Yeah.
69 northbound, exiting onto 39. Well, before you exit the clock tower, is it going to be lit soon? Are they going to be finished with that, or?
Mr. Oaks?
I couldn't hear him, he was talking to you.
I was inquiring about the clock tower at 6939, if that was going to be finished soon, if it was going to be lit like the north.
North was lit already.
Right.
And the south was not. I went on it the other night, and you still had to swim out there most days. It's still underwater.
Leash date or anything on that, or?
It'll be part of the lighting package that they have. That's the same as the older headlights that are along the highway itself. But I have not seen completion of that work.
Okay, and then as you get around that,
But it's again, those are $1.35 million each, which is hard to believe. So you better get the lights on.
and then on around that nice smooth curve they have there, the roundabout where 69 southbound exits onto Morton Avenue, and there, it's a roundabout that's not like finished. A lot of confusion. I see the vehicles as they meet coming off of 69 from the southbound and the northbound.
I'm exactly with you. I was down there after lunch today because I complained about it a week ago, but we'll take care of it, you know, that kind of story.
Truly nice.
Yeah, as you're coming through that roundabout out northbound, there is a stopped light there that's facing really the wrong direction. So as traffic's heading north to Morton, they're curving to the right, they're looking this direction, they're not looking at the stoplight. And I saw the whole string of them went right through there, so I'll contact them again. It's their intersection to do.
And then the third one, do they have an idea when they're gonna get signage up for us? Because so desperately, people have no idea how to get over to the Walmart Plaza, so forth there at Ohio Street. We have no signage whatsoever to let people passing through our area know that we are alive and well.
Right.
And helping the business. Do we know when they'll get signage up?
Well, the signage packages are different packages within contract number 2, I think it is for them, which is supposed to be completed by June 30th of this year. So
Thank you.
let's see how fast they're-
You know, Councilman Neckard, something that's interesting, we were in a meeting and they were talking about, you see the blue signs on the highway that has the restaurants on there or whatever.
Yes.
You know, I just always assumed those were free. No, that's $240 a month rent from those businesses. And what is it, Gary, you gonna get one?
Renewable every year, and there might be 6 of those on one of those blue boards.
And to be able to qualify to be on that sign, you have to be within one term of the intersection.
It's a moneymaker.
So it was very interesting to be educated on how the blue signs work.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the council? Any comments from the public tonight?
My name is Betty Sherman, I live on 160 West Jackson Street. I'd just like to know, do you all know how many properties the county owns in Martinsville?
As you can tell by the blank looks on our faces.
The state owns a little more than 20, but I don't know if the county owns.
I think we can't answer that.
Okay.
Anything else from the public? Cecilia?
I am Cecilia Kraft. I live at 11 North Jefferson Street. I'm here to give you an update on Amended. I had a very busy day. I had tenant issues. I was walking back at a little before 5, and I was walking in the alley behind Manumission, 4 of the guys were out back. 3 of them I knew, so I sat down and visited with them. And one of them is named James. He's been there 1 week. I met James at Jackie Blackwell's restaurant, Come and Get It, several months ago. I think Pastor Jack was still alive. And it just so happens that Jackie was very busy. I had my walker because of my accident. And I said, Jackie, if I can find somebody I know to sit with, may I go in? She said, go for it. So, you know, here I am with a walker and gray hair, and there's this young couple, and I said, may I sit with you? And they said, certainly. James, whom I saw this afternoon at the mission, was that man. He had worked with Pastor Tackett previously, but they had parted ways. He is working at the mission. He is also helping at Wellspring. And he said, do you want to come in for our 5 o'clock Bible study? I said, well, is that allowed? He said, I think so. So not only did I go in, but I said the opening prayer. Now that's a miracle in itself. Any of you know the history between me and the former pastor, you know that's a miracle. So they are continuing to work to clean it up. A number of men have recently left. I laughed and said, yeah, when it's not 2 degrees outside, then they're ready to go outside and play. And that does happen every year. But the ones who are there now are working, one at Family Dollar, one at Crone Lumber, and the young man, James, who preached a Bible study on putting on the armor of God, did a very good job. He's a very good man, and I just wanted to give you guys an update.
Thank you, Cecilia. Anything else from the public this evening? Anything else from the council? Our next meeting will be on Monday, March 14th, 2022, 7 o'clock. Here in March 28th. Yeah, on my pad lost log. I just Becky, do you have all your documents back? Without objection, we are adjourned.